relevant, kind of from the beginning. I grew up as one of 7 kids. I was always in trouble. I was in a gang, and I had to be one of the stupidest guys in the gang because they wanted me to do everything, but they were the ones that got all the money. I dropped out of high school at the age of 17. I won't bore you with a long story, but as a result of my activity of being involved in a gang, my life was at stake. And I decided that the best way to get away from everything was to go into the Army. And so at 17 years old, I went into the Army. While in the Army, I learned a lot. The Army made a man out of me. It gave me discipline. It gave me insights. It gave me courage. And maybe most importantly, it gave me a different environment, because the environment that I was in was going to wind up with me either being dead or in jail. So while I was in the Army, I got my GED, and I got out of the Army after 3 years. And what I can tell you is I was always motivated by money. And so when I got out of the Army, I found out that I could get paid to go to school. And so I got a job, but I also got VA benefits to go to school. And I got a check every month that I never cashed. I put the check into my drawer from my money from the VA, and I did that for several years. I ended up going on the Chicago Police Department. I was a patrolman. I was a detective. I taught at the police academy, and then I got promoted to sergeant. And I was over a team of police officers in Inglewood, and we did what police do. I then found out that I could continue my education and continue to get paid for it. The police department paid me to go to school. And so I ended up getting a bachelor's degree from Chicago State in organizational management. I then got a master's degree from Chicago State in criminal justice. Spent several years on the police department, got offered a job to be the chief of police at Northwestern University and hospitals. I took that, left the police department. I walked away from probably one of the most secure jobs that you could have in the city of Chicago, being a cop. The only way that you get fired from being a cop is by doing something really, really stupid. And, for me, I was making good money at the police department, but I knew that that money was not the kind of money that I really wanted to make. And I understood that the only way to get that kind of money while being a cop was to steal and to take money from people, and I didn't want any part of that. So when this opportunity came up for me to be the chief of police at Northwestern, I took it. Northwestern then paid me to go to school again, and I got a master's in business administration, an MBA from Northwestern University, one of the most prestigious schools in the country. And all of the time I was having checks that weren't being cashed that went into my drawer. And every time I opened my drawer, I felt pretty good. I stayed at Northwestern for about 5 years. And I'm just going to kind of fast forward, Marcus, because I don't want to take up a whole lot of time on my background. But I got recruited by what is now Chase Bank to be the head of investigations around the world for Chase Bank. I took that job, did it for 5 years, and I realized that there was a lot of money to be made by helping people gather information for them to make decisions, whether it be business decisions, litigation decisions, family decisions. And so I started a private investigative firm. I got licensed in the state of Illinois. Started a private investigative firm that I built up into what turned out to be an international firm doing work all around the world. And that is how I became a millionaire. I was an entrepreneur from the time I was a kid. So when I was a kid, I did everything from shoveling snow. I'll never forget, I had to be about 10 years old. And I told my dad, I said, look, I want to sell some chicken dinners. I didn't have any money. A couple of dollars so I could get some chicken and some potatoes for the French fries. And he said, okay. And then I said, and will you cook the food for me? Because I didn't know how to cook. And so he loaned me a couple of dollars. I went and got a couple of chickens. Things weren't as expensive back then as they are now. He fried the chickens up for me. I went and knocked on people's door and sold them. I took that money and went and bought more chickens and more potatoes. By the end of the day, at 11 years old, which would have been 1961, I had about $90, which was more than my dad made in a week. Mm. So I was always an entrepreneur. Most of the things I tried failed. I was a disc jockey. I tried doing lawns and bought a couple of lawnmowers and realized I didn't want to work that hard. I had a little security thing without a license, illegal security, but I went to the stores on 95th Street. And I said, hey, look, you all need security. And I know a lot of people around here because I was in the gang. So let me give you some security. I had about 5 or 6 stores that paid me to let gangbangers be their security people. That didn't work out because the cops finally told me to cut it out or go to jail. So I tried public speaking. I've done all kinds of things. Most of them didn't make it. The one that really made it was the private investigative firm. And so I agree with you that if most millionaires are like me, they fail many, many times before they hit the one thing that really works. I'm not very good at developing people. I was very good at being me and doing what I do. But I probably was not a great boss because I didn't develop people well. Many times I didn't treat them with the respect and dignity that they deserve. I generally expected much more from them than I was paying them to give me. And so one of my failures was, even in my best times, was an inability to develop people to their ultimate capability. And because of that, even though I did very, very well, I probably only did about 30 or 40% as well as I could have. If I had developed people better, if that was a skill set that I developed, I would have been much more wealthy than I am today. I was a workaholic, and I kind of expected everybody else to be one also, even though the return that I was. And I failed to see that people had lives, that I was the one who wanted to be an entrepreneur. They wanted a job. And there's a very different set of values that go with those two things. Having a good employee doesn't necessarily mean that employee will make a good entrepreneur. I was a very good entrepreneur once I really got rolling. And I couldn't see through the fact that a lot of people that I had working for me, they were not willing to work 16 hours a day like I was, nor should they have if it didn't benefit them properly. They weren't willing to make the sacrifices that I made. And they weren't getting paid to make the sacrifices that I made. So I would say that, my inability to understand that at a younger age kind of lessened my ability to make even more money than I made. And I made a lot of money. The first sacrifice I made was time. Time is the one thing that you and I have just as much as Donald Trump, Bill Gates, or anybody else. And so, Marcus, I think I've always said to you that it's not a matter of time that separates successful people from people that aren't. It's how you use that time. And how you use that time when you're an entrepreneur, that means you got to spend a whole lot of your time, your life, your day working. And when you're not working, you're thinking about work. And when you're not thinking about working, you're preparing for the next day's work or for the next week. So time was a big sacrifice. Embedded in me sacrificing my time, and I would say trading my time for opportunity, I probably did not do as good of a job at home with my wife, with my kids. You know, my wife and my kids, they had everything that they needed except for me. And so I was away a lot. I was engaged in things outside of the home a lot. And so that was a sacrifice that cost me something in terms of, and I love, I think it cost them internally also. I sacrificed the opportunity to be myself because, you know, everybody says, you know, do you, man, do you, be you. Well, what if being you is not an entrepreneur? What if being you is kind of lazy? What if being you is somebody who would rather have fun than grind? I was that guy. I was lazy. I didn't want to really work hard. I didn't want to grind, but my desire for money overtook all of those things that I didn't want to be, and money became my priority. And so I sacrificed a lot of who I really probably wanted to be. And I guess at the end of the day, I'm glad I did. Skills that I think that got me from the letter A to the letter Z was my dogged determination. When I got onto something, I was on it. Whether as a police detective trying to solve crimes, or whether an entrepreneur trying to make money. I believe that energy follows your focus. If your focus is making money, your energy will support those efforts. And you will find yourself taking your energy to chase your focus. So there are some people who say they want to be millionaires. I can tell you how you can easily find out if they're telling the truth. Watch what they do. If millionaires, potential millionaires, have a zest and a zeal to make money, they will sacrifice time, they'll probably sacrifice family, they'll sacrifice themselves, and they will always be trying to figure out an angle to make more money. They will do that in a way that requires integrity, that I can talk about that later. And they will find ways to go up the scale. If a person, if you look at a person, if you get a group of 10 guys in the room and you talk to them, Marcus, if they're not doing those things, if they're not chasing the dollar, they're never going to catch it. Several pieces of advice that I would give. If it was somebody that I talked to for a half hour and I realized that this person really had potential and really had the desire to be a millionaire, I would take my time to try to talk to them about this, about the question that you just asked. The other side of that, if I talk to somebody for a half hour and I realize that what they had is a pipe dream and did not have the willingness to really do what's necessary, I wouldn't waste my time. So, so let's assume, because time is really your biggest asset. And if you're going to be a millionaire, don't waste time on people who don't want it. Because what you'll do, you'll set yourself back. All they're going to do is get angry at you later and call you a bunch of names, and nothing's done. So that's the first thing. Second thing I would say is this. A person who doesn't have assets but really has a mindset, that person has to have integrity. Because if you don't have money, you're going to have to depend on people to help you get from point A to point B. People are not stupid. If they see that you're a shuckster, a con man, or somebody who just talks a good game but never follows through, never does the hard work, they will see through that. And so the first thing I would tell them to do, or tell a person like that to do, is have the integrity to be a man of your word. And if you say that this is what you're going to do, show me that that is what you're going to do. Because you'd be surprised. There are people who would be willing to help a person if they saw something in it. So first thing is integrity. Second thing, I think that person has to be able to tolerate failure, because he's going to fail a lot of times, more than likely, before he succeeds. I would tell that person to be realistic. If you're starting off with little or nothing, I don't want to hear you telling me you're going to be a millionaire in a year, because I'm going to walk away from you because you're crazy. Now, does that happen sometimes? Can somebody go from 0 to 60 in a year? You know, out of maybe 20 million people, maybe that does happen to one of them. I'm assuming I'm not talking to the one that's that lucky. And so I would tell that person to be realistic, understand that going from 0 to a millionaire requires a number of steps. And at each step, you don't have to knock it out of the ballpark, but you have to get on first base at least before you can get to second. And in the process of getting to first base, you got to learn some things that are going to get you to second base, and you've got to employ those things. I think you got to be a disciplined money manager. People get money and they blow it. They blow it on things. They blow it on people. They take people out for dinner. They go to the club. You got $1,000 and you're in the club buying $1,000 bottle so you can have a table. There are people who do this, Marcus. I mean, this is real.
No,
so you've got to be a disciplined money manager. You got to be able to take your money and say, okay, here's what I need to live on. I'm going to set aside a little bit for what I want to do, even though it's not what I need. And I'm going to take a chunk every time and I'm going to put it up. I'm going to put it in the bank. Not too long, because you don't make no money in the bank. I put it in the bank so I don't touch it. And then I want to invest that money. I can't tell you the number of people who come to me and say, hey, I got $5,000. What should I invest it in? I want to have a lot of money by the end of the year. $5,000 isn't going to get you a lot of money by the end of the year. If you got a 10% return on your money, which is highly unlikely in this environment, if you invested $5,000, you made $500 bucks. So you got to be real. A person has to be realistic. I would say that whoever I'm talking to, you have to be able to prioritize. If you can't prioritize what's important, you're going to end up majoring on the minor. And your energy will follow that minor focus. And you might have minor victories. You might have minor defeats. I would rather have big defeats and then big victories. So a person has to prioritize. I think you got to be willing to work a lot. I'm not talking about 9 to 5. I'm talking about 9 to 9, many days out of the week. And the idea of a weekend, forget about it. There is when you're trying to become a millionaire and you ain't got nothing. There's no such thing as Saturday or Sunday. Every day is the same. And that day is a day for you to try to do what you're trying to do. I think a person has to have X-ray vision. You know, I don't know if you remember Superman. Superman could see through stuff, right?
Yeah.
A potential millionaire has to be able to see through stuff. He's got to be able to see through people, because people are your biggest obstacle. People will get in your way. People will slow you down. People will disappoint you. People will have you pulling your hair out. So you've got to be able to see through people and find out of that 50 people that you know or talk to, who are the one or two that are worth hanging out with to make money. Now, those other 48, 20 of them might be good guys to party with. Ain't nothing wrong with that. 20 of them might be good guys to shoot pool with. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But out of that group of 50, if you can find two that are like you, who want to make money and are willing to do whatever it takes legally to make that money, hang on to them, man, because they're far and few in between. People talk a good game, but when it comes down to putting up or shutting up, most people cannot perform. So I would say X-ray vision. I think you have to see through potential investment issues. You have a limited amount of money. You better not make a lot of mistakes with it. And so investing in the first or second thing that comes along is probably stupid if you haven't vetted it and done your due diligence, because you don't have that much to lose. And so the things that you pick to invest in, they better make sense within your criteria. I think you got to be able to tell the future. You got to be, you got to be able to handle a crystal ball, because what you are betting on with your time and with the limited resources you are betting on the future, and you're betting that you know what's going to happen in the future. Investment bankers who make billions and billions of dollars as an industry in a year, they make that money by betting on the future. And to bet on the future and to be good at it, you have to do diligence. You have to study. You have to study sectors. You have to study markets, industry, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to come to you, especially when they see that you're successful in one or two ways, and they're going to be asking you to put your money in with them. Be careful. So you got to be able to see the future. I think you got to be willing to lose some friends and family along the way, because everybody is not going to see your vision. Many of the people, if you become successful, they're going to be jealous of you. If you start making a little money, people are going to come out of the woodwork trying to get some of it from you and try to borrow it or try to get you to invest with it. And when you don't do it, they're not going to like you anymore. So you got to be able to handle that. And I think you got to have good luck. And as you mentioned, Marcus, the way that I've heard that saying is that it's amazing how good luck and hard work go together. So that's what I would tell somebody.